it's so easy to make a movie that's a low budget film nowadays and just throw the camera on your shoulder and go. But we wanted to try to avoid that while still staying within certain parameters financially.
How did I get so lucky tonight?
So, JT, the marketing for the film has been great at hiding the mystery. Are you even going to know what to do with yourself when you can finally talk about it freely?
It's you'd never believe it by these interviews because obviously sometimes I talk too much doing an answer and then you don't have any more time. But I actually don't like to talk. I like to talk about the movie, but I don't like to talk about the meanings of scenes and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of been nice to have a reason not to have to explain myself or explain these characters. So it might be weird when we're able to talk more freely about it.
I can imagine. Well, and Giovanni, this is your first time as a director of photography on a feature film. What made Strange Darling the project for you to want to make that jump?
Yeah, I mean, for me, even as an actor, it always comes down to really, I mean, the script first, but then the director and the person who's captaining the ship. I read this within 15 minutes. I was calling him, and I think it was actually pretty late at night, calling JT, and I was sort of exploding all over the phone about how much I loved the screenplay, and essentially begging to be a part of it.
Having a birthday party in Las Vegas, and he called in the.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's right. I remember.
My
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
family was there, and I get this call, and I was like, I almost told him I couldn't talk, and he's like, I got to tell you, and I told my family, I'm like, Giovanni Ribisi's on the phone and loved my stuff, and they're like, go into the other room, like it was the greatest birthday present I could have had. It was really, really, because Vani's picky, so it was a really great moment for me, kind of like Stephen King now and all these people. That was just one of the steps that was like so validating. It was really cool.
Willa Fitzgerald really made a name for herself in House of Usher, and Kyle Gallner is one of the best actors working in horror today. So this is a two-part question. How did they get involved in the project, and what was it like to mold these characters with them?
We were just meeting lots of people and auditioning some people, taking meetings with others, watching footage, and Christy Hall at Paradigm recommended both of them to me, and I started looking at their work. Did not need auditions because there was plenty of great work to look at. I just needed to take a meeting, and then my editor Chris was cutting a movie with Willa in it, and we wanted to make sure that we cast the lady first and then the villain second, the demon second. And so I went over and looked at some of this footage in this thing he was cutting with Willa, and she was so good in it that I wanted to take a meeting, and the meeting was incredible. And I called Vani and Roy Lee and Bill Block and Steven Schneider, and wanted all the producers to approve, and everybody got behind it, and we cast her, and then Kyle, I wasn't as familiar with as I should have been, and his agent told me to watch Dinner in America.
Yes.
Sundance, I think it was there the same year my first film was there. So sometimes when you're there with a movie, you get really busy, and I didn't see a whole lot of other films that year. I saw a few, but not a lot. And so I ended up watching it, and I just my mind was blown by this guy's performance, and we had a similar meeting that was just perfect. And I couldn't imagine the movie with anybody else in it, and without these two actors in the film, I think Vonnie agrees, like the movie just doesn't work, with the wrong people in those roles.
I've watched the movie 4 times at this point, and every single time it's like, holy crap, you just to see the little subtle things in the performances. So just incredible. And the film is absolutely beautiful. I love the use of red against the natural landscapes. So Giovanni, can you talk about talk a little about the deliberate color choice in the movie?
Yeah, a lot of that was born out of the 4 or 5 month conversations that JT and I were having leading up to and preparing to make the movie. We wanted to be very conscientious about everything, and make all the choices before we were actually just hit with the avalanche of making a film. And so it was not just that; it was the color, red and blue. And the idea of what JT has said before, which is using color almost as a weapon, but really sort of an emotional, visceral factor in the film. But it was also just the sort of structured placement of the camera, and not just, it's so easy to make a movie that's a low budget film nowadays and just throw the camera on your shoulder and go. But we wanted to try to avoid that while still staying within certain parameters financially. I think that for me, that was just that was an important challenge, and it was almost just basically uh, just to look at the zeitgeist and try to, to almost in a rebellious way to try to figure out how to do that. Um, so it was a lot of it. Everything I think in this film and in the process, even during the days that were so incredibly impossible, we always had this document that we could fall back on. That I think we strayed from. So, I mean, so drastically, but there was still the DNA that was there that we could sort of read and go, oh, okay, this fits this choice right now, that we can't do that, but now we got to improvise. We're still following a certain path here.
Well, when you talk about a document, I saw that you both released this list of 10 films that like helped inspire Strange Darling through Letterboxd. Yeah. Did you guys give the cast and crew like a little homework to get them on the same page of like, watch these movies?
No, I mean, I told Willa wanted to know what she should watch, and it was obviously for different reasons. I think I don't know how I haven't. That's a good question, because Vani and I haven't even talked about this specifically, but for me, I felt like even though we were influenced by all these movies, we had a very specific, singular thing we wanted to do that was ours too, And so there were a lot of ingredients coming from things we were influenced by, but we wanted it to be swirled together to be something that was our own. And so I definitely didn't want. I wouldn't have liked people on the crew to be like copying, like we want to make that type of movie, and then we're all of a sudden we're just trying to reproduce, Suspiria or something. Like we definitely wanted it to be our own thing, so we just went in that direction. But with Willa, for sure, like I sent her to watch, she watched Repulsion and Taxi Driver and all these movies that and Kyle as well. Like they were watching movies like that because they wanted recommendations.
Well, and the music in the movie is so on point for just the entire duration. Was it always planned to have such a customized score, or did the score help to inform the edit?
Music's really, really important to me when I'm writing. So I'm always listening to wordless music. I'm always listening to classical music when I'm writing. And for my first film, I was listening to a lot of Satie, and I was in a Chopin mood on this one, and it just it was sorry. And it was helpful. I think my phone just started trying to play Chopin because I said like,
oh, spooky.
Anyway, so yeah, and Z Berg was somebody I was already a fan of, and I knew as a friend, and I was listening to some of her music as I was thinking of some of these scenes, and the movie was always going to be like this mix of original violent score, an abrasive score, and melodic classical music and the gear shifting moments between chapters, and then pop songs, sad and folky pop songs, but pop songs. And so Z Berg ended up writing all that original music for most of it was original for the movie.
And I guess my final question for both of you is, what excites you the most about people discovering Strange Darling?
I think it's the performances. I think it's the journey that they both go on. These two people who are in this isolated bubble coming together in love and violence. I do believe they fall in love with each other, and there's a change there. And I think it's the two actors are just exceptional.
So lucky tonight.